break. Even we do that. And just to celebrate that, I'm told that I'm a bit of a lush and I often have wine here, but this time I brought a little bubbly just to celebrate you
Oh,
lovely
fancy.
people. So, to you people watching, to my wonderful co-host, our producer, and this time our guests. So I'll do quick intros. My name is Hedl. I'm from IGDA Finland, chair of IGDA Finland. I do game design teaching at the universities, and I work at MetaPlay. But you're not really here for me. You might be here for my lovely co-host, Sylvia.
Hello, my name is Sylvia, and I work with Nonita, the Norwegian network for video game companies. I don't have such an impressive resume as you, Hel, but we do a lot of similar things in our jobs.
Very much. She makes the console thing, the event happen in Norway. It's 100% her, nobody else, just Sylvia.
Oh, of course, nobody else, especially not in this call. Not at all.
It wouldn't happen without you, though.
No, exactly. And I'll quickly mention our lovely producer, Viv, who is behind the camera making sure things work. We love you, Viv. Thank you for making it happen. But today you're probably here for our two wonderful guests. And I'm going to, because of the order of screens on my screen, I'm going to go with Andrea, who's on the top. So hello, please say hello to all of our viewers and welcome.
Hello, all of our viewers. Yes, I'm Andrea. I am, as the topic warrants, a tech artist at Iron Gate, working on Valheim at the moment.
It's a pretty cool intro. Just like, yeah, I'm here, Valheim. What up? Not bad. We also, so this is Sweden, and then we have from Norway, Aslak.
Hi. I'm work at a game studio called Rain Games in Norway, in Bergen. As Sylvia said, I work next to her.
Yay!
And here, I will just quickly. So literally next office. So they hang out a lot. So nepotism is what I'm saying.
Yes. I was conveniently placed. I also do work on we just released our game called Teslagrad 2, which I did a lot of animation work on, but I also did what I guess would be called sort of tech animation. I don't have the official title of tech artist. I'm more like a art generalist to do a lot of tech art work, basically. But I'm sort of familiar with the field.
Sounds really good. I think this is going to be a pretty interesting one because we've done less we've done producers and some tech people, but we've done less sort of the art side so far. We've had QA as well and community people. But but this is definitely kind of like a new area expertise. But I would say it's not really the expertise of any of the there's usually sometimes like a third host from Sweden as well, but like none of the hosts have anything to do with art, so this is definitely not our ballpark, and but that's why you're here, because this is your home turf. So let's maybe begin with just a quick description of what is technical art, because usually people think of art and tech like as a two very separate things. So if you would want to explain it a little bit, because I think your words will be much better than either of us trying to explain it. Andrea, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most succinct way to put this is that tech art is the bridge between tech and art. It's the easiest way to put that, because even if it's animation, technical animation or technical, like anything involving like shaders or tools, you've got people like us sitting in the middle, making sure that the artists can get stuff working with the game, and that the programmers will get the right stuff from the artists.
You're right. That was very succinct. That was very. But I think that cleared up a lot. Aslak, do you want to add something to that?
I think it was pretty well put. I've heard from friends of mine who are, let's say, more officially, tech artists have described their work as janitors, which I thought was really funny. But it's basically having to make sure that all the tools and things that the artists work with actually work. And, just cleaning up messes.
I was gonna say it sounds a little bit like being doing a bunch of. So I say this because I do a lot of producer stuff myself. It sounds like you're doing real work and then being like kind of producer between these teams and making sure both teams get what they need and looking after them. But then on top of being a producer, you're doing like an actual job. But yeah,
So-
that was Sylvia.
So I'd like to actually ask a little bit about your background in this. Like, how did you end up in tech art? Is that like, did you go via education? Did you go via experience or interest? How did you get into tech art? Andrea?
Yes. So I took a very roundabout way. So I don't have any formal like games education. But I am so I'm entirely self-taught. Almost. I like took programming classes in high school, where I learned some basics, and then I decided that programming is really hard because you need to know a bunch of math. So I stopped doing that, and I was a 3D artist for 9 years. And I think that's part of why I became a tech artist is because along the way, being that I worked freelance and I had a lot of time working on my own projects, I kept wanting to make my stuff better. I kept wanting to implement cooler things. And so I started learning to do some basic shader stuff to make my things look better. And then it's a decade later, and suddenly I'm better at shaders and VFX and everything than I ever was at 3D art. So I took that kind of like roundabout way into it, but I think that's kind of one of the best ways to do it because I feel like as a tech artist, if you've been a 3D artist before, if you've been an artist in the field that your tech art is related to, you know what artists in that field want and what they're looking for and what kind of what kind of tools they would like to work with and what helps them achieve their best results.
Yeah, sounds about right. Makes sense. How about Aslak? How did you end up?
Yeah, I studied design or graphic design, and then I moved on to motion graphics, and I did a lot of 3D, same as Andrea. So I worked for several years as a 3D artist, or like a 3D generalist, I guess, and then I just started picking up things that needed to be done, basically. And then when I started working in games, we were a very small company, so whenever I wanted to get something done, I would have to sort of learn how to do it most of the time. So whenever I needed a rig or an animated character, I needed to do the rig myself, and that takes a long time. So it was an incentive to learn how to automate, like make tools to automate the rigging process and figuring out sort of the pipeline of getting the art from the art software into the games. Just learning lots of different systems. And so yeah, I guess I'm spending more and more time on the technical side of things lately, even though like I'm also an artist still.
How do you feel about that?
Well,
Is it a move that you're enjoying or?
yeah, I think it's interesting. I guess if I got to choose, I would give that job to someone else. Luckily we have, programmers that help me out with the stuff that I can't figure out myself. But it's interesting to know how stuff works, I think, and so that's why I've sort of gotten more into it as time progressed.
I think there's maybe a little of I don't know that kind of curiosity is something I run into in a lot of people who work in the game industry. Both art, art is maybe not quite in the same like how things work, but like maybe have some techniques and stuff. But especially in game design and on the programming side, there's a lot of people who are just sort of like, how does it work? I want to get into the deep stuff of it, and then that curiosity carries them, like pushes them to kind of soar in the industry. So I can, yeah, that makes perfect sense what you're saying, at least to me. Is there, to carry on from Sylvia's question, do you think there's how do you say, is there a typical way of becoming or ending up as a tech artist?
The answer is no.
Yeah, I think it's pretty different from person to person. At least the people I know who do it have, but a lot of them have started like as 3D art generalists, and like they didn't specialize in anything specific, just like they were interested in the software for some reason, right? And then, but I know people who also started as programmers and just like had an interest in the artistic side of it.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are like educational paths for tech art specifically now, which I don't really know what they look like exactly, but I know they exist. But yeah, it's there's so many different paths people take. I would say the general gist of it is, I most tech artists I see don't come from the programmer side and go towards art, but more likely you see them coming from art, wanting to better whatever like side of art that they're working on, and learning the tech side because of that. In my experience.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I'd actually like to ask a flip question to this a little bit. Are there a lot of tech artists that move on from being tech artists into something else, to a different role, or is kind of tech art where you end up going from different positions too?
Good question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I mean, you can have people like I've definitely seen myself, for example, move closer towards graphics programming as a thing when I was working at Thunderful, right? But the thing about being a tech artist is that everyone wants a tech artist. So when you become a tech artist, you kind of stay there because it's what everyone wants you to be. You know, it's such a useful bridge to have between the different disciplines.
Yeah, I have the impression that it's a sought after skill, basically.
Are there?
So,
I'm gonna. Oh, sorry. I just have a really quick follow-up question to that, because we were mentioning earlier before the stream started that I personally don't know of many tech artists, but then you were both saying that you do, and I was like, oh my gosh, my brain just went like, I don't know where I was going with this for a moment, but I think it's more like, are there enough game tech artists in the industry as of right now, or do you think that we need more?
I mean, for my job security, I think we can like keep the amount. But
we'd have some, you know, like.
It does kind of seem like there's there are a lot of open positions, but I don't really follow the news that closely. But I know of positions that I don't get filled for half a year or longer. So I assume it's room for more.
Because that was actually going to be my question, because I know some people who want to get into the game industry who are artists, and it's a limited amount of artists that have a place. So I guess telling them to learn some tech and become a tech artist would be pretty, like, well, not a surefire way, but like a pretty. It would make it more probable that they would find a job. When it comes to the tech side, I know, like, if you do back end, you will be hired like that. So I feel like, because if you're just a software developer, it's going to be way harder. But if you're back end, it's like this. So if you're an artist, it might be harder. If you're a tech art, I don't know. Maybe it's one hand snap, not two hand snap. I don't know. Maybe.
I would put in two hands, honestly.
yeah.
Tech artist and VFX, and those have such a massive overlap. As well.
A lot of the same things you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. A VFX artist is often a tech artist specialized in VFX, right? So I don't know if there's a big lack of tech artists. I just know that as a tech artist, it's easy to get a job. So I guess I would point to a lack of them.
Probably, yeah. This is actually a difficult question because a lot of people who end up in the industry. Once they're in the industry, they focus on their job and they don't really follow the market of jobs. They might know their company, what they're looking for, but yeah. So
I've been in the same company for 10 years, so but I co-own the company, so then
probably helps.
Yeah.
So if I can just go back to a second, we have a question in the chat that asks the VFX, tech art, and animator, where is the line between these roles?
Oh boy!
You mentioned, you mentioned that they overlap.
I think it's really just a matter of specialization, right? I would put a tech art as like the overarching title that can fit in all of these, like animation or VFX or shader work and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it seems.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it just seems to me like there's a lot of. Depends a lot on the company you work for, how they define it.
Yeah. Exactly. And like I've seen tech art postings where they ask for rigging expertise and knowing Maya scripting language, and I don't know any of those things, but I'm still a tech artist, right?
Yep.
So it varies a lot, but it's I would argue they're sub specializations of tech artist.
Yeah, I agree. So like if you're a really big company, for example, then you might have different categories, but like a small one, you just hire one person and tell that person to learn the new stuff if it becomes necessary.
Okay. So I'd pull back a rewind a little bit because Sylvia was asking about moving to / from the role of a tech art. What is there? Yeah. This is complete me guessing, and this is based on trust me, bro, science. Yeah, so I have a vibe that you end up in tech art from art because you more often than just from tech, because it feels to me from my own personal experience that there's more people. It's more common for an artist to start dabbling with tech than the other way around. So is it usually artists who end up as like pure artists who end up as tech arts? But then also I would be interested in like, is there somewhere where you can go to from a tech artist? Does the question even make sense to you?
I think you're asking about what like the next level is.
Yeah, kind of. Because I'm not sure if it's like upwards or if it's lateral or like.
Because I think like there's no like obvious level above, because the role is so diverse. So it's more like specializing in one part of it. Like they said, like a VFX. Like if you start with tech art, then you're more like a generalist maybe, and then you move on to specialize in just the animation systems. But I think you need like the art. One of the reasons that there's a lot of people with art backgrounds is because you need the art sort of foundations to speak the art language, and a lot of programmers maybe don't have that interest. So, and then you might need to go like, if you haven't like built that interest over time, then you might have to like really study it very intensively. While it's easier sort of to pick up a bit of scripting on the job, maybe. you don't need to be super technical to do a lot of the tech art, like base level tech art stuff. You just need to be a little curious. It's how I feel that.
I mean, I've seen. I will say I've seen people who are more heavily into the programming side become tech artists just like because of this curiosity thing. I think that's a big key to this is just wanting to know more in more areas will like eventually just lead you to being this connecting piece, right? So I've seen people who dig into shaders because they're interested in programming, and then the shaders will lead them into VFX or whatever. So or pulling off graphical tricks in general, which is really tech art's wheelhouse kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if this impression is correct, but I do feel like there is maybe a little bit of a separation between the sort of some places called tech art, also like tools programmers, people who make tools for the artists. They call that tech art. But some places call tech art artists who do more technically oriented tasks, right? And I feel like for doing tools, you need more technical know-how. That's maybe a little. Then you probably need like a proper programming education. Whilst like if you're going to do VFX work, you might be able to get along like me, just googling it.
So we have a question from one of our viewers who asks, what are the mandatory things that all tech artists should know? That's a very big question.
It's a huge question.
Yes.
I mean, it again, I think it depends a little bit on where you want your specialization to be, right? But you want to find the area of art that you want to work in, and you want to find what that requires for implementation, and then you want to mash those things together. So for me, for example, my specialties are VFX and shaders. So for me, I think the basics you need to know are how a 3D model works and all the data that carries, and you need to know how shaders work, and you need to know how to connect those on a code level. And then you can start being a tech artist. But then you can start being like a shader-based or like a shader-focused VFX artist. But then
Can I quickly ask you to, because 3D models and then the program part, like that's usually pretty clear. But then, like in your own words, maybe both of you, if you want to open up a little bit shader, what a shader is, because I think that's a pretty misunderstood term. Yeah, because a lot of people think often that it's kind of like a filter. It's just like a small, but like a shader can be many things and in many ways. So.
Do you want to start on this one?
I think you're more qualified to talk about shaders than me.
Okay, you're more animation focused.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, in the very basic sense, a shader is just a program that runs on the GPU. And I think that once you get to the point where you realize that that's all it is, you also realize that you can do anything with a shader. A lot of people think of shaders as just like like I said, like a filter over the final result on the screen. But every time you draw something on screen in a game, it's drawn with a shader, even if it's just drawing the picture as it is, or if it's drawing just like a normal model with its regular lighting and all that stuff. All that lighting still has to be calculated on the GPU in a shader.
So kind of the language of the GPU.
Exactly. They're what powers the rendering, the final step of the rendering, and decides what things look like on screen. Or in some fun cases, if you're going really advanced, they define whatever the heck you want, and you can start making other programs that do things on the GPU that you probably shouldn't be doing on the GPU, but you can anyway because it's fun.
Love it. So so you work on Valheim. Well, first of all, it took me embarrassingly long to realize. I think your background is from Valheim. Maybe
Yes.
it looks like yes. Beautiful product placement. Well done. This is wonderful. But speaking of, as someone who deals with shaders, if you play Valheim, what is something that you've done in the game that you can see as a graphical thing? You know, when it comes to shaders, is there like a kind of concrete example that you can give of what you've done to in Valheim?
Yes, as of very recently, because I only joined Iron Gate in November last year.
Okay.
So the latest update that came out, Hildir's Request, I decided I didn't like what the fire effects looked like in Valheim before I joined. They were all very inconsistent and not super great quality. So I went through them all and I wrote a brand new shader that takes. Let's get a little technical here. It takes a sprite, a grayscale sprite, and it maps a gradient to it, and it changes that gradient over time in the particles, so that you can have these really nice, like fiery gradients that change from, like, say the inside of the sprite is yellow and then the outside is red, and then the outside of the sprite might change to a different color while the inside of the sprite like changes towards red, right? That's one of the shaders that I would have done for Valheim that you can currently see in the game.
Cool. It's a really good example. Thank you.
That's really cool to hear about. So, Aslak, how about you? What are the mandatory things for an animation-focused tech artist?
Yeah.
Well, I think automating things is sort of, it's not very technically difficult to do, but just writing scripts that help you do the same task 100 million times. That's like sort of a lot of the technical things that I had to pick up for, like rigging complicated characters, like on Teslagrad 2 this most recent project I worked on, we had a lot of very sort of fairly complicated rigs for characters that were supposed to look like cell shaded animation, and they had like lots of characters with capes and like flowing hair, those kinds of things, and requires a lot of bones and setting up of simulation effects and all those things and making that work together. So just being able to sort of keep the system in your head and like figuring out which parts you can sort of easily automate so that it improves your workflow. Like putting out, for example, a bone chain for many strands of hair might not take too much time to do it like once for like one part of the hair, but if you have to do it 20 times, you're suddenly sitting for days and days if you don't have like a automation helping you do it faster, basically. So it's I think like just understand hierarchies, which is like what a rig is basically, and learn how to do some Python scripting to automate the placement of things. Sort of indispensable.
Okay.
Oh,
I was going to say, like, really cool to see very different, like the same, essentially same job, but like very different aspects of it. It was very cool. Thank you.
The person who actually asked the question had a follow-up comment. And they ask, so let's say I focus on shaders and just in Unreal Engine 5, which doesn't require that much knowledge of coding. Is it too narrow a field, or do I need to know more coding to be considered as a good tech artist?
I did tech art for the Gunk in Unreal, and I don't know how to code in Unreal. So like I did some very basic tools for some level designers using blueprints, and that was the first time I ever used blueprints. So it's like, you know, you're not gonna be probably the senior tech artist on your project if your focus is entirely shader based, right? But it's a great start. And you know, the being interested in that kind of stuff and wanting to learn more is how you get to the next level, right?
Yeah.
It'll probably lead you to another thing as well. And sorry,
Yeah.
I just have to say the gunk. Beginning of last year, January, I had COVID and I was stuck home, and I was just like, I need to do something. So I went through a bunch of games. I played Gunk, and it was an absolutely gorgeous game. It was a really enjoyable game. It was gorgeous. It looked like a miniature. Like, oh man, it was some good stuff. So just
Yeah, the artist
just
did an
wanted to say
amazing job on that.
good thing. Sorry, Aslak, I think I spoke over you a little bit. So please, if you wanted to add something to the question, the answer.
Well, yeah, I suppose like the question was a little bit about whether you need to be a programmer or like how much coding you need to know. I guess like especially on shaders nowadays, you can do so much with like node-based systems, and it's getting to be more and more. And it's, you know, the problem with node-based stuff, of course, is that it tends to slow things down. So it's like if you want to go on a very weak platform, you might want a tech artist who knows how to program, like at least like in Unity. The shader graph there has a reputation for putting out really bad code. Like one of our programmers was complaining the other day, like it's unreadable. The thing that the shader graph puts out is unreadable by humans, basically. So there are like limitations to node-based stuff, but it doesn't, not necessarily. I don't know like how it is in Unreal Engine, but
So again, since this is my area of expertise, right? I would argue that node-based tools are a fantastic start. It's how I learned how to do shaders, because all the same concepts carry over. The node-based material editor in Unreal is functionally and how you use it, it's very similar to the Unity one, but it's also really basically the only way you can make shaders happen in Unreal. You can add in custom nodes and stuff, but it's fairly well optimized there. And if you don't know how to code, then like that's fine because you're not really allowed to code in shaders probably in Unreal.
yeah,
You
you can mess,
code it, but it's
you can mess stuff up a lot more, I guess, if you go into the actual shader language and if you are on the nodes.
yeah.
So the
Okay.
person who asked the question said thank you for the answers in the chat. Yes. So can I?
Good questions. Thank you for the
They were.
questions.
They were. Can I ask? Can I go back, roll back a step with a question about your day-to-day life? Because we heard specific examples that you gave on things you've worked on recently. But what does your day-to-day life look like? What does an average day as a tech artist look like for you?
There is no average day.
Oh, but that's also exciting to learn about too.
Yeah. I mean, okay, you go first here. I feel like I've talked a lot.
Yeah, like I since like we're fairly small teams that work on our games, like 10 people, and then you start when you're that small, you tend to have to do whatever is the next problem. But we have I have like an area of responsibility. Like I'm responsible for getting the animation working in the game, basically. So like at the end of the project, it's a lot of rigging and animation tasks. But an early project, it's like figuring out pipeline stuff, figuring out what softwares we should use, trying to figure out, like now I've been working on trying to figure out like if we can use some like what tools used to generate normal maps and depth maps to sort of automate a bit part of the art process, for example. So it varies a lot for me, because we're a small team, not just because of the area that I work in.
Yeah, it's very similar for me, right? We're a similar team size. I think we're 13 people in total at Iron Gate. So there's no day that has the same work as the previous day. If there's VFX happening in the game, I'm the one who does that. But then I'm also doing programming and implementing new enemies and just I'm touching every area of the game, right? So every day is different. There's no similarity from one day to the other.
Okay. So it's funnily enough, yeah, again, kind of close to producer, because producers' days are just widely different almost every day, compared to some of the people who we talk to. Is kind of, I'm not saying they're doing the same day from day to day, but there's a lot more. It's a lot more kind of well, more similar than what the kind of description you guys gave. We've talked about how to get there, what's the day like, what do you do? We've had some good questions. Maybe something a little bit. Is there a misconception or misunderstanding about being a tech art, or about the role, or the title, or what you do, that bothers you, or that you would like to clear up for once and all? Looks like not.
No, I mean, I have a personal pet peeve in that if you're a tech artist, you sort of end up becoming tech support for a lot of the team, if you're unlucky. But that's that was an experience I've had at a previous place where I worked at, where because I have knowledge in every area, people will start coming to me with questions and help, right? But that's not really a misunderstanding of the role. It's just a fact of having a lot of experience.
And being the bridge, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Especially the bigger studio, I would imagine that becomes the case a lot more. Like for our studio, since we're small, with and then I tend to work on I don't tend to get pulled aside that much. I do help out other people when I can, but it's not sort of does not get to the level of tech support.
Well,
No.
technically, Aslak, sorry, I'm just interrupting with something not fun. Technically, you have me next door, but it's not because you're a tech artist.
That's layout. That's completely different.
Yeah. Sorry,
Right.
I interrupted you, Andrea.
No, I was done. I was making a very short joke.
Yeah.
Well, so because there's not really a misunderstanding. You just kind of is there something you would like to make abundantly clear for your future colleagues in different roles? Maybe not a misunderstanding, but that would make your job and your life easier if your colleagues, they can be programmers, artists, producers, marketing, whatever, that you would want these people to know and understand.
Yeah, I got something.
Oh,
So,
sounds good.
Right. I mean, I just want to say to every 3D artist out there that you're going to be a much better artist, and probably every tech artist's favorite artist, if you take the time to understand how 3D art and such works on a technical level. If you know what the data you're creating is, it's going to be possible to do things beyond your wildest imagination, and it's going to be much better for everyone involved. So sit your ass down and learn about UE channels and vertex colors and how they work, and you'll be very thankful you did.
That was a good one. Aslak, anything to add? Any?
Yeah, I guess like for a lot of technical things, there can be like steep learning curves. Like yeah, I felt that was that way for me with animation rigs and animation systems. But just be persistent. You'll figure it out. Don't don't be afraid to fail a lot, because there is some satisfaction to be had from figuring it out in the end.
That's well, okay. Yeah, I would expand like yes. That's in general. If you want to like, in I guess in almost any job, but especially like creative jobs, I think you accept the fact that you will fail at times, and then just kind of learn to, as cliche as it sounds, like learn to kind of embrace the and understand that it's just part of the creative process, and it will happen, and it must happen, and you can learn from it. If you don't learn from it and you refuse to learn from it, that's going to be a problem. But yeah. That's definitely a good thing, and that I think I'm getting so many like this kind of this curiosity, this wanting to figure things out from you, and I think that's a really good thing to have kind of this innate interest in things and this burning yearning of figuring things out and tinkering with them. But yeah, I think we have a couple of questions again,
Yeah,
Sylvia. If you want to grab them.
Yeah, we have two questions from our viewers, and the first one is, Andrea, as you've been working with Unreal Engine, do you also work with blueprints? And if so, in what scale? Are they always related to the shaders or all around stuff?
I have worked with blueprints, not a lot, because I find blueprints really hard to learn and to get into. Unlike node-based shaders, I just never know how to find the functions that I want to use in blueprints, because it's always, to me, it feels either too generic or too specific, and I can never figure out how to do what I want to do. Except in a few cases where I've done blueprint scripting for the editor. I made a tool for the gunk, where you could place in a level and it would generate a waterfall of a certain width and height for you, and it would automatically intersect that waterfall with the level and create foam where it spawned, or like where it collided with stuff. And that's about the level that I've worked with blueprints. I think that, and like one blueprint where I needed to assign a specific value to certain models in another game I was working on are probably literally the only blueprints I've ever written. So
Thank you for the answer. And then we have another general question, which is, so what tips do you have for programmers? So we are also the tech arts favorite.
I want to repeat exactly what I said earlier. Understand better.
Do you have any? Yeah.
I guess what makes it the easiest to work with somebody on the programming side is the like the willingness to listen, I guess, just and not get hung up on the obvious problems that you will spot in my like approach and ideas. Like, because if I'm not super, I will not think about the most technical sides of things. I would just like, can I do this and this, and I want like a tool that works something like this, and then you can easily sort of ask me lots of gotcha questions, things that I haven't thought about, which will make my idea fall apart. But like instead, sort of, try to listen to what I need to have done instead of like all the errors that I'm coming up with, I guess. It's like I think that's in general from people on the art side, is that like they do a lot of things that frustrate the more purely technically oriented people, because it will break the systems and the game in lots of different interesting ways.
Okay, good solid answers. Was it? Did we go through both of the? Yeah, I think we went through
Yeah,
that.
we went through both of them.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I think the next one is on you anyway. So, if you want to continue, Sylvia.
So I have a question about your experiences in the industry, and if you have any memorable experiences with any of the projects you've worked on that have really like made an impact on you. Do you have anything when you've been working with tech art? Do you have a memorable time or a memorable thing that you did, or maybe a response from somebody on your team that was great, or not? But
well, I had a memorable failure.
ooh, let's hear. We learn from our failures. Yeah.
So on one of our previous projects, we were doing lots of sort of dialogue interaction scenes, and I was trying to create like a character rig system with the help of one of the programmers, where the character would change emotional state dynamically, and we were just trying to figure that out on the fly. And like I spent like 3 months like rebuilding the rig over and over to make it do the thing that I wanted to do. And in the end, sort of grew way too big. So when it came time to like produce the content, like the assets for it was very underwhelming result, basically, because like we had overscoped the entire thing. That's a risk you can constantly get into, and so I learned like a valuable lesson from that project. I feel like, keep things simple. Don't go overly complicated. Like do those extra rounds of like assessing, like, is this really necessary? Borrow from mechanical engineering. What the best part is no part.
Yeah, fair. Andrea?
Yeah, that's a really hard question to answer. It's there's a lot of different stuff. I mean, I think some of my favorite moments have probably been like these stupid simple hacks that I've created that have like had a big impact, where I'm just like, I'm flipping like 3 switches and suddenly we have a nice feature that nobody thought we were ever gonna have. That kind of stuff, or things where I have an example from when I was working on Adios, where I was the art director on this. I was doing tech art and 3D art on the entire thing, right? And one of the things I did was I was working on a room that was gonna have, it was a dark room, so it was gonna have a naked light bulb hanging down. So I made the light bulb and I hung it from the ceiling, and I realized it looks really bad without a light fixture holding it in on top. And so I grabbed a plastic jug that we had lying around as a prop, and I dragged it to the ceiling, and the bottom of the plastic jug stuck out from the ceiling and looks like a light fixture. And like, it's that level of hackery that I find really funny and satisfying. And I strive to be that lazy every day.
I actually sorry to interrupt. We just got a question that is very relevant to what you just said. One of our viewers asked, "What's the difference between a hack and a solution?"
I think
I think a solution is something you're proud of, and a hack is something you're not.
You don't want to show your hack to any other programmers.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the things that I would call hacks are things where I'm taking shortcuts or using things in unintended ways, because sometimes things just need to get done rather than done well, right? So I think that's really the main difference is a solution. A hack is still a solution, don't get me wrong. It's often the best solution. But I think the difference here is more long-term thinking and integration a lot of the time.
I could maybe give an example what I think is a classic hack, and I think, well, some of you I've probably heard. I think it's in, well, Bethesda games are known for being quite wonky.
I think
Put
I
it
know
that way.
exactly what you're about to say.
Yeah. So the train hat. And Fallout, so they had a train, but instead of building like an actual system that would be a train, this has been a while. I remember reading it from ages ago, so maybe but the gist was that instead of building like a system for a train that can move, they just created an NPC that had a train as a hat, and the train was underground, or the NPC was underground moving, so it looked like a train was moving, but it was just kind of the hat, or like it was just jerry rigging.
Very
Exactly.
okay. On a very technical level here, it's not actually a hat; it's a weapon, and that it gets
Oh.
equipped player because that you can only see you can't see your hats in first person, but you can see like weapon models in first person, right? So it's a weapon that gets added that you're holding that looks like a train.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But yeah, okay. Thank you for the clarification. Like I said, it's been years, but I think it's a good example of a hack that works, and has become part of kind of game legends. And when it was found out,
I love that kind of stuff.
it is good stuff.
We have our chat is getting very excited about this conversation right now, just so you know. But we do have another question for you, which is, do you think that your company's colleagues you work with fully understands what you actually do? And what steps in your what steps in your workflow takes time? So there are two separate questions. Do you think your companies and colleagues fully understand what you actually do?
I understood that as a related question. The second one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's related at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it depends on what part of my job we're talking about. I think a lot of my coworkers see my shader stuff and just go, "Cool." I have no idea how that happened, but cool. But I think they all understand that. Like thankfully, everyone else finds shaders complicated, so they understand that it's complicated and it can take some time, right? So I'm lucky in that aspect, I think.
Yeah, I don't think
Go,
that.
go.
Sorry.
No, go.
Oh yeah. I was just trying to think. Like, maybe there's probably things that the others don't think about the stuff that I do. Especially, like, I guess the rigging part is sort of that's only me at the company who really into that thing. So most of the others don't have to think about that. But if they needed to, I guess most of them would be able to understand it. It's just a question of, like, do you have to think about this thing? There's a lot of things that I don't have to think about, and I'm very thankful for, but the others do.
Yeah, I mean, at the larger company that I worked at, I think a lot of the time maybe people took some of the stuff we were doing for granted. Like I've had requests for things that are kind of unreasonable to ask, and I have to explain why we can't do it, and how we don't have supercomputers that can simulate everything all at once.
Any examples?
No, I don't want to call anyone out specifically, and if I start giving examples, they're gonna know it was who I'm talking about. So,
Fair. Okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
5-minute check. Okay. So I was just gonna say, because the way I think rigging makes sense to a lot of, like, it's the skeletal system, whereas I think shaders are still kind of black magic to a lot of people. They're just like, stuff goes in, beauty comes out. And it's just, and that's why I could imagine what if Aslak, you show rigging to someone, they're like, that's solid. And then if you show, I don't know, if you show shader, they're like, the hell is, how did, what? Oh, cool. And then
That's me with the rigging. So like I'm a fan here.
Yeah, I mean, if you show somebody a relatively uncomplicated rig, then it's pretty easy to follow what's going on. But if you show somebody like all the 5,000 bones in my most complicated rig at the same time, they're going to have a hard time sorting through it, I think.
Oh, for sure. and I want to clarify, I didn't mean to in any way say
it's
that.
it's just a matter of complexity in both cases,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think rigging is just, like bone structures. It kind of makes sense to us because we have skeletal systems and you have dolls and everything. Whereas shaders are just like this, boom, boom, alakazam, and then there's fire.
Exactly.
So cool.
Shaders are the simplest programs in the world. You modify one pixel for one frame. You don't have to care about anything else, and that's why I love them, because they're actually so simple.
It's exactly what a wizard would say. I don't.
Yes, I was just thinking. It's like
I prefer witch, but thank you.
Fair enough, a witch. But let's not go witch hunting this time. So I would just want to quickly mention, because Aslak talked about the dangers getting kind of letting things get out of hand and feature creep and the whole thing. This is, I feel like the whole game industry needs to listen to you and and understand.
I need to listen to me.
Well, yeah, okay, everybody, yeah. Do as I say, not as I do, right? So yeah, this is something I tell my students very often, and usually their first game project is them learning about scope and how they're like, but I want to do Witcher 3, but like in a cyberpunk thing, and maybe it could have multiplayer. And I'm like, sure, go ahead. Watch, crash and burn. But yeah, and then of course we use try to give them tools, like very simple, like core wish or core extended wish, like this kind of things, how to make this. But it's really cool to hear someone from the industry also mentioning this, because it's often kind of overlooked. So I just wanted to throw back to that. It was a good thing you pointed out. I think if we have maybe time to a little bit, like for any last kind of questions, and then we're gonna start to wrap it up, because believe it or not, we do have personal lives as well to get to.
That doesn't sound right.
Video games to play. Come on.
Well, I mean, what I mean is I have Baldur's Gate 3 waiting. Okay.
Is that why you're getting a little nervous there? You're like, come on.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Gale is lonely, and someone needs. I'm just saying. I'm trying to be considerate here. to my boy. But yeah. It's been really, really cool. Also, Andrea, I think this is weird because you mentioned Adios. I got it not long ago, and it's on the third next game I'm gonna play. So because I've also spent a lot of time in Valheim, so I feel like it's been going through your history.
My gameography, yeah.
Yeah, but good stuff. Would you guys two things? First of all, would really like to hear from you if you have any thoughts what role we should cover. Like if there's something that you think would be very important to cover / something that's often not maybe talked about. Do you have anything that comes to mind?
What have you covered so far?
Producers?
We've done producers. We've
Community?
done community managers. We've done oh my gosh, Jan.
Quality assurance?
QA?
Yeah,
QA. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, like education and such, but yeah.
It's been we did like game teachers. It's been a summer. It's been like 3 months. We don't even remember it more. But yeah, maybe that's it. We started like January or something. So this is pretty new still.
Do you have like a list that you plan to go through, or?
Yes, that's what we're planning.
Yeah,
perhaps.
What? Oh, sorry. Did I tell a secret?
No, all good. But yeah, is there anything that comes to mind that you think we should slap on the list?
I can think of several roles, but I assume that you already have them because like they're most obvious ones, like audio and writing and.
Give me a good discussion between like AI programmers, and I'm in.
Okay. We know some people there. Wait a minute.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good one. Also, I will say audio and considering that audio people deal with audio, it's difficult to find a lot of them and people who want to come in front of camera and talk about it.
UI and UX, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good one.
Especially the differences between them.
Yeah.
What difference? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset anyone.
You just made an enemy out of my wife.
Oh yeah. I made enemies out of several of my friends just now. So yeah.
I felt the screaming of thousands of voices at the same time.
Yeah, we've already got people in the comments already making. But we also
making friends.
Yes, making friends. That's right. We some of our watchers also recommended narrative design and level design as well.
That's good. That's true. That's true. There's so many roles to go through, which is good. Not gonna run out
for us. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, thank you for the suggestion. Also, you darlings in the chat, thank you for the questions and the suggestions. Been really good. Last bit, if you guys want to, throw a shout out to someone, if you want to puff your contacts or your games or your company or whatever you want to throw out, this is your chance to shine. Go ahead. Aslak, you go first.
All right. I guess I should plug our next game we're releasing in a month called Girl Genius. It's based on the famous webcomic Girl Genius. You may or may not know about, and you should check it out. It has a Steam page and everything.
PC only?
Well, it is going to be on the Nintendo, but it's PC first.
Okay, cool. Okay, nice. Do you want to put any of your personal anything, or just the game? Are you just focusing
on the game? You can follow me on Twitter or X.
Don't say.
I don't like it. I don't like it anymore.
Yeah, fair. It's becoming.
But I might move to somewhere else. But right now, it's Aslak Helgesen.
Join us on Mastodon.
Ooh, but wait, which what are they called? Servers?
Instance?
No, instance something. I've heard islands. I don't know even what to call them anymore. But yeah, Andrea. So what do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to plug Valheim. We have an absurd amount of players as it is. So if you want to buy Valheim, that's great. I mean, we did just release a cool update called Hildir's Request, which features a character voiced by me and some hidden pride flags that nobody has found yet. And I'm really waiting for someone to take screenshots and post about them. On a personal note, you can follow me on my own Twitch channel, which is Andycraft, ANDIICRAFT. I don't have a Twitter anymore because Elon Musk did what he did, and it's not really usable. So yeah.
I feel I got rid of mine as well. It's been it's let's not even go there. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, for being guests here. Thank you for the viewers. Thank you, Sylvia, for being a wonderful co-host once again. Thank you, Viv, for being our wonderful producer. It's hard to say lovely and wonderful at the same time. It started to become wonderful. Anyway, you wonderful, Viv. Thank you for being there for us. We'll see you not next month because there's too many events going on next month. There's going to be a bunch of stuff happening, but in 2 months in October will be the next Icebreakers, which with the next role, and we will let you know what that role is. We got to go through the list.
Yep. And also,
Exactly.
thank you so much for everybody for watching us this evening.
Yes.
Yes.
It's been wonderful.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having us.
Yes.
All right.
Our
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.